I was 3 or 4, my mom was teaching me Urdu, and my nursery school teachers called her and told her to stop teaching me because they thought it was interfering with me learning English. If I had the opportunity to talk to those nursery school teachers now, I would definitely tell them that they were wrong. You can be bilingual and be American.
One time I was listening to Taylor Swift in a car, and a friend of mine said that Taylor Swift would be beautiful if she didn't have Asian eyes. If I could see that friend now, I'd say, you're an idiot.
2 years ago, I was at a football game, and this USC fan comes up to me and says, hey man, can you do my math homework for me? And I was kind of in shock, didn't really know how to respond to that, because you don't really expect anyone to like go there. Joke's on him, I'm bad at math.
So as you watch that video, depending on your experience, you may have had an elevated heart rate. Your breath pressure might have increased. Your skin temperature might have changed. Maybe your muscles tensed up a bit. And the reason I want to show that video is because I want to pose this question. Can you feel what someone else feels? Literally. Can you experience those sensations of somebody else's heart rate, or the tightness that happens in their chest when they enter an awkward situation, or the skin sort of starting to crawl when they're faced with a situation that they're not comfortable with? So I had the fortune of participating at the recent NACFI conference, National Academies Keck Futures Initiative, and my discussion group proposed this concept of an empathy jacket that you can inhabit, asking whether you can inhabit somebody else's physical experience. Now, this empathy jacket could impart to you that heart rate, that tension, right, the tightness, change the temperature so that you start to feel and all of this would be from data recorded from another person watching that same video. So would an experience like that lead to a better understanding of and empathy for that other person? Now, we didn't phrase it this way at that time, but you can think of this very much as the method acting approach to empathy. And so I am very interested in how visual, auditory, and haptic, or touch-related sensing and interfaces can illuminate alternative perspectives and try to foster these different experiences to foster expressive communication and empathy. So these investigations, these sorts of investigations, are the basis of our work in Philadelphia at the Drexel Excite Center. It's a university-wide initiative for transdisciplinary collaboration, spanning artists and scientists, designers and engineers, and of course many, many others. My name is Youngmoo Kim. I'm very, very privileged. It's a tremendous privilege to be here at DASER and to participate in this extraordinary panel. And thank you, JD, for the invitation to be here. Here's a view of our center from the inside. Of course, in all of our activities, we are also huge advocates of STEAM, and that's a term that's already come up multiple times this evening: science, technology, engineering, arts and design, and mathematics in an integrated fashion. It's really not just in our education activities, but in everything that we do at our center. We believe that there's an implicit empathy within STEAM that fosters that understanding of different perspectives and methods for learning. Now, we bring in some of our projects, we bring specific technology or specific ideas or implementations to bear. This is a music project where we were really trying to develop a computer system that could predict emotional response to music in the same way that a human would have a response. So we actually built a little game here, a game to collect data from people. And as they were listening to music, they would annotate this data. And you would actually be playing with somebody you were paired with across the internet. So when you're overlapped, when you agree on the assessments, when you're in the same space, in this emotional space, what's called the valence arousal space, valence being positive to negative emotions, arousal being intensity. When you start to agree, you get more points. And so we were collecting data from a lot of people to build this model so that our machine, our computer, could then predict from an unknown song, will people think that's a happy song, a sad song, an upbeat song, a laid-back song? In another direction, we also develop different sorts of sensors and interfaces to augment musical instruments. This is an instrument we call the magnetic resonator piano. And I'll let Mark play for a few seconds here. So you're probably already hearing sounds that you would never think of emanating from a piano. And so with this instrument, you can express things that no other piano can. But you can also, because we've built this very specific high-resolution keyboard sensor, it allows us to collect very, very detailed information for each performer, every gesture, every nuance of expression, so that we can better start to understand what goes into making a performance expressive, what goes into making it emotive versus something that is simply playing the notes. And that's an active project of investigation for us right now. This idea of just trying to better understand the connection between the arts and technology, in this case with music and technology. We have this great project with the Philadelphia Orchestra who are trying to just fill in the background for those who don't have the experience with classical music to understand what's happening in a symphony. Why is it structured a certain way? I actually had students that I made, I'm this kind of professor, I make my students go to the orchestra. I'm an engineering professor, by the way. I made them go to the orchestra, and afterwards they'd come back and say, that was nice, I didn't get it. Right? 90 minutes of nice sounds, but I was lost. I didn't understand what was going on. So trying to build a little bit of scaffolding, having a system that can tell you at the right time, hey, the main theme starts in the violins now. And it's perfectly synchronized. So we knew how to do that. We built this for the Philadelphia Orchestra, and the great news, it's deployed. It's actually active in regular subscription concerts. There'll be 6 concert series next season that the Philadelphia Orchestra actually performs with this system. We also work directly with artists, and I have the great privilege of working with Lembit Beecher, who's a fantastic composer, who is just now starting to prototype a new work. So we've built some actuated instruments for him, some robotic instruments that he is just starting to sketch out into this new work, a chamber opera for solo singer and electroacoustic sculpture. So the wine glasses are self-propelled, and then they're controlled from a console. Likewise, the bicycle wheels, you can control very precisely, and the different sorts of percussive effects we can get off of that. So we prototyped those, and Lembit is just starting to sketch this, and this will premiere in fall 2017. So I also have the great fortune at Drexel to work with some extraordinary colleagues. Some of you may know Brian Smith. He's actually very active in STEAM policy discussions here in DC and elsewhere. My other close colleagues at the Excite Center, Frank Lee is famous for doing city-scale video games, where he puts video games on the sides of skyscrapers, the largest video game in history, in fact, dual Tetris on either side of a skyscraper in Philadelphia, where one set of controls was by the Art Museum, the other set of the controls was across the river, and you could play competitively against one another. But turning video games into a public experience, actually a form of public art. And of course, that requires a very different approach, a very different level of understanding than just simply designing a game for a small screen or for one player. And then my colleague Geneviève Dion, who also was at the NACFE conference, by the way, is really known for her work in functional fabrics. That's smart, textile-based designs incorporating sensors, actuators, things that can give you feedback, things that can take data from your body, and then use that for example, a prenatal sensor to monitor a pregnancy, or a physical therapy sensor to monitor your body's position throughout the day. These kinds of projects actually led to a brand new national manufacturing initiative called AFOA, Advanced Functional Fabrics of America, and the Mid-Atlantic hub for that is based at our center, the Excite Center, led by Geneviève. There are too many applications of functional fabrics or smart fabrics to go into, but I want to mention one that Geneviève and I have explored together, which is kind of an unusual area to be talking about fabrics and textiles, and that's in robotics. We happen to have a couple of these adult-sized robots, these humanoids called Hubo, and they're fantastic. They're amazing machines. They're very futuristic and very mechanical looking. So we wanted to try something different. Can we start to play around with fabrics, with coverings? There's no law that says that robots have to be made out of metal and plastic, right? So by being able to prototype with fabrics and start to embed capabilities in fabrics, we're actually able to do something that I don't think many others have been, that anyone else has been able to do. The fabric is actually flexible. It better protects the robot. We can actually embed sensors through fabric. The fabric itself serves as a touch sensor, so as the robot raises its arm, somebody can touch it and it'll lower its arm to have, again, that sense of tactile communication. So it's not just about capability, but it's also changing, of course, the appearance, making the robot more approachable. And through this work, this to me has raised the question of how can this inform, how can interfaces like this inform how we interact with one another? Or maybe even more importantly, should machines explore empathy? Should they exhibit empathy? Now, as humans and robots interact more and more closely, and you know, it's starting to happen. It's slow, but it's starting to happen. I'm sure some of you at some point had a robot vacuum cleaner. Mine's still in the closet somewhere, but anyway. But as they interact more frequently, they will need to be aware. They'll need to aware of people, about their expressions, and of course their emotions as well. I think that's widely agreed upon, that that's a necessary capability in robots and in computers. But furthermore, I actually believe that these machines must also be designed to evoke empathy from humans. That we have no problem developing emotional attachments to inanimate things, right? If I reached over, grabbed your phone and threw it on the floor, you would probably be hurt by that, right? But not just our phones. I mean, there's so many things, so many inanimate objects in our daily lives that we actually start to form emotional attachments with. So, and I would contend that that's actually the best way to encourage. Having a robot that evokes some empathy is the best way to advance the field, because that's probably the best development path for others who are going to use them to take good care of them, to actually incorporate them into usage for assistive purposes, for those assisting as assistive devices, assistive technologies. So trying to make machines more attuned and aware of those human expressions has really heightened my awareness, of course, of this topic of empathy and how we ourselves are attuned to that. How do we perceive that and, of course, react to that? So I will return to this notion that I posed at the beginning. Originally I proposed this as the empathy jacket. We, in our discussion, started to come up with how technology could be applied more directly to study, to research empathy. And so my group, our group was actually called Creating Human-Centered Cultures with Human-Centered Technologies. And the proposal that we submitted is called the Empathy Mirror, incorporating the empathy jacket from previous, as I described previously, but it goes further to directly address the sort of lack of understandings that we face in our daily lives. Again, this is not news to anybody. We are surrounded, we sort of immerse ourselves in an echo chamber of like opinions, mostly. And that's, of course, emphasized through social media and all the other outlets. But we tend to live in our own echo chambers. And so could we use audio, visual, tactile technology interfaces to foster greater empathy for those holding opposing opinions? So the way we kind of proposed going about this was that, can you actually hear yourself say things that you would never say? That the opinions that you might shout to the top of your lungs to at your full volume against. Right? So we propose an installation that allows a person to express an opinion, to choose a text that best aligns with their own opinion, and then see a synthesized version of themselves that expresses the exact opposite. So just to demonstrate what this might look like, I had some very, very kind volunteers ahead of time. So let's see. Can I bring up Darcy? Darcy Gentleman, who's been fantastic in helping me prepare this presentation. So, and if we have a microphone, this will just take a minute. So imagine Darcy being your typical exhibit goer. He walks into the installation, he chooses a text, and this is a text he chooses. And
if you live in a blue state, you're going to live longer. You're going to be healthier. You're probably going to have a college degree. You'll have more opportunity.
So we record that, we analyze and track that, and then just imagine a few seconds later, this is what he's presented with.
Education innovation is occurring in the red states because they aren't in the death grip of special interests that prevent the exploration of the new and the effective. That's why if you had to pick where your children were going to be educated at a public school, you would choose a red state.
The opinions expressed are not necessarily the opinions of the presenter. I have one more very, very kind volunteer. So can I bring up Kimberly as well? And so again, imagine she came into the exhibit as another regular exhibit goer, chose a text.
Red states have the greatest amount of volunteerism, the greatest amount of generosity, and the greatest opportunity. They are not elites that dictate to the underclasses. They are middle classes prospering together.
System chug a little bit, and then?
Invest in education, invest in infrastructure, protect the environment, and have a stable safety net. It makes economic sense, and it's morally the right thing to do. And the numbers prove that we are right. If you look at the top 10 states by gross domestic product, 8 are blue, 2 are red. If you look at the bottom 10 states, 9 are red, 1 is blue.
So, thank you very much. To do this correctly, we think we can actually do this. We have the face mapping technology. We are at the cusp of having the voice synthesis technology to actually do this. But the real question is, can we apply that technology to explore this question? And can you learn more about yourself? In seeing that, seeing a vision of yourself expressing that opinion that you diametrically oppose. And will that lead us to just open up our thoughts, open up our thinking just a little bit? And so hopefully this project integrates multiple disciplines and could be used as a research tool. I'm certainly a compelling exhibit, but also a research tool that helps us better understand ourselves. Here's the group that I worked with at NACFE, and I really, really want to acknowledge their ideas and contributions. They're certainly not my own entirely. And our this was a really great experience. We are very optimistic. We are hopeful we'll actually get to build this because we think we can do it, and we think that we, again, have the expertise within this group to pull that project off. So that's where I will end. Here's where to find out more about some of these things. I realize I dove right through many of those projects. If you're ever in Philadelphia, please check out at the Excite Center our monthly T3 events, third Thursdays at 3. Every month, it's a very informal gathering of 5-minute presentations spanning technology, design, entrepreneurship, and many more things. That's where you can find out more. Thank you very much.